Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight ISU. Today we have a new guest. His name is Justin Nock. I reached out to him because he's the president of the Students for Open Discussion. And
Right.
just like the name of that sounds like he would be perfect for a podcast. But go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and, you know, what you do.
Hello. Hi, I'm Justin Nock. I am a junior in mechanical engineering with a music tech minor, and I'm also the president of Students for Open Discussion. We meet once a week every Thursday, 6 to 7, in the MU Multicultural Center. So, yeah, our goal with these meetings is we get together, we pick a topic the previous week, and we just discuss it with the goal of learning more and gaining new perspectives and kind of playing with different ideas and not really debating, but more exploring them and learning more.
That's about how many people show up to, you know.
I'd say average is 5 or 6.
Okay,
We
okay.
got 8 or 9 total right now.
Would you say it's kind of like a diverse group, as in like there are a bunch of different ideas, or like
Yeah,
what kind of
definitely.
perspectives are people coming at this with?
We've got definitely some conservative, some liberal or right left, however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pretty good amount of religious variance, um, whatever, you know, or lack of religion in some cases.
Dude, you're talking right up my alley. Because I've met with a lot of people on this show, and I try to kind of like diversify it and talk with like every group, every representation of different
Yeah,
people, and
yeah, it's really nice. We have a good spread right now, I think. We do lack in some racial diversity, I feel like.
oh, okay,
Um,
is it mostly white then?
yeah, Iowa State's just a pretty white place in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we'd love to have some more students that aren't white,
yeah.
but if you are white, we'll take you too.
I'll say, well, and it's nice that it's in the multicultural center too, which is kind of
Yeah.
like the hub area for all different kinds of people. So,
Hmm.
um, no, that's really awesome. I've had a lot of people on here, and a lot of programs that kind of do similar things to like what I feel like the open discussion, what your club tries to represent. You know what I mean? Like the philosophy club is kind of like, hey, let's talk about something and just like try new perspectives and figure things out. But it's more
Hmm.
like philosophy centered, and it's like we have political groups that claim that they're going to talk about different sides. But I've never been to one, but I don't know if that's actually the case. So I guess like what sets you apart from other groups on campus that kind of have a similar motto?
Yeah, we're definitely a more conversational club. We get to know each other a little bit. It's also usually less into the weeds in philosophy. Like myself, I'm not opposed to philosophy. I like thinking deep, but not everyone in our club does. So we often have more entry level conversation into big topics, I would say. We do gather sources each week, me or the vice president, Elise, and then we share those for people to read. So
Do you share
we
them
have,
before like
yes.
the meeting? Okay.
So we have an informed discussion, but we're not, super informed. We're not saying we have all the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
We're not like a think tank being paid by the government to
Yeah.
figure everything out.
Yeah.
But
Just a bunch of
we're
college
getting
students trying to
there.
figure out the world and
Yeah.
talk it through. So I have a ton of questions. Most importantly, like give me some examples of topics that you guys have talked. Like run me through like the last couple weeks. Like what are some things that you guys talked about?
Yeah, the past couple weeks have been rough. The ice storm kind of ruined one of our meetings,
Oh yikes!
and then everyone else had a busy week 2 weeks ago. But yeah, also besides that, we've had Andrew Tate was our first week.
Okay.
We decided to start spicy.
That's such
Um,
I. It's unbelievable. Continue.
yeah, we like to do current events as well as political, social,
That's
and kind
good.
of tie them in. That one ended up. We discussed traditional versus new modern values and the differences and advantages and disadvantages. That was kind of a wild one,
I'm
honestly.
really excited.
We
We'll
really
get
get
back.
off
We'll get back
topic.
to that. But run me through some more, just so I get like an idea of what kind of things you guys are talking about.
Yeah, let's see. We've done gun control in the past, abortion in the past. This year we've also done, let's see, we did a light topic, which was like weird food combinations and opinions people had about those.
Oh, I got some. Yeah.
So we started doing a few light topics once a month to kind of get people to know each other better. Just kind of an empathy builder.
That's a really good idea, because I think what I was leading to on this like next question is, you have this discussion for talking about things that can get people really upset, like pretty heated. So it's like, what's the vibe like in these meetings? And two, like, how do you kind of control it to where it's not just like
Yeah,
like a yelling match?
that's a great question. So there's a lot of rules. There's we call it discussion etiquette and guidelines. So there's a whole list of rules on things you can't do or really shouldn't do. And most of it just boils down to respect. If you show disrespect to someone, or become combative, or start debating someone like aggressively, we will ask you to stop doing that.
What are some lines that you draw like during a conversation? Like, what are some maybe common things or situations that you were like, okay, this is getting.
I haven't had to draw many lines so far. Everyone's pretty civil, thankfully. Everyone gets along. We definitely disagree, but we get along.
And so, I mean, do you think that that's because, I mean, like, that's what the club is designed to do? Or do you think you landed people who are really able to control what they talk about? Or do you think that it's kind of the dialogue that you open up that allows people to talk like that, to be like so pretty civilized?
Yeah, I think I have to give credit to my club members. They're great. Not too many complaints. Yeah, I've seen one instance of something that got kind of personal and that got kind of shut down pretty quick. And it wasn't super aggressive, but it was sort of a bad faith argument.
Okay.
That's about the only thing I've witnessed in my year and a half in the club.
Yeah, how did you start doing this? Where did that come from?
Club Fest. Club Fest is our big event, including myself. I was recruited from Club Fest. Just a good time.
When did you become president?
This semester.
Okay, and then has the club been around for a while and you kind of just like took up the mantle, or?
Yeah, I believe it's 4 or 5 years old.
Okay, so not like crazy old, but definitely
No.
like been around for definitely been
Yeah,
around for a
it's been
hot minute.
established. It's gone through some changes for sure in formatting, but in our
So
constitution it says like if you try to change like the purpose of this club to gain new perspectives, like it just you
don't
can't do that. Like that's the one thing in the constitution that you can't change.
is like what the purpose of the club
Yeah.
is to gain.
It can never be used to promote a specific agenda or ideology or belief system.
That's really, yeah. I mean, it seems like such a concrete part of the, especially when you say like it's a club for open discussion. Like that has to be what it. So what do you try to bring to it? Like, as president and kind of like, I assume the leader. Like, what are you hoping to get out of the club? What are some things that you're kind of wanting to change? Like, what kind of vibe do you bring to this?
Sure. I try to bring energy as much as I can. I'm not a super energetic person, but I am excited every time I go. It's just it's just nice to talk to everyone and learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can watch video essays all day, but talking to real people is just way different.
Yeah,
For learning about this stuff.
it's a whole new, and I think, especially with doing this podcast and what I imagine that being at an open discussion meeting is like, is it kind of humanizes people.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, and what I'm discovering now is that people who disagree with me are really just similar or really similar to me, but they just like believe something different, or they grew up a different way, or they like lived a different life. And
Hmm.
so it's like you'll see on the internet like everyone's so mad, or they like, they kind of blow up something into a bigger proportion than it needs to be, and it makes you think that everyone who believes that is like that. It's kind of like an overrepresentation. And
Right.
I think,
The louder,
yeah, like
the
the
loud
loudest people are
vocal
the
minority.
yeah, I know those are the ones that like you think represent
Right.
the whole group. And it's frustrating to see that get peddled so much, because that's what gets views, that's what gets entertainment, and that's what like gets people talking about it, is to say that like, well, the other side is fuming about this. So
Yeah,
that
there's a
means
lot of broad generalizations that I really try to um, prevent doing myself, as well as encourage other people not to do. Because I think just casting wide nets over groups of people just generally isn't very
yeah, it's pretty
helpful.
much always going to be wrong. And
Like you can point out certain things like, oh, this population has this problem, or these people are dealing with this, but there's a certain point where that breaks down, and you can't just say, "Oh, all of these people have this and all these people this." And
yeah, and you begin to wonder what kind of purpose it serves to think that way.
yeah,
Like, how does it truly help you to start off with that assumption? You know what I mean? Like, do you think you're cutting off some time spent thinking? But you shouldn't be doing that anyway. I mean, you should really just think about this like wholeheartedly, and
yeah,
get down to the brass tacks of what is actually going on.
hmm, yeah. I definitely try to lead with empathy and an open mind. I've definitely had my mind changed, or at least learned about something new at the club. My biggest, probably the biggest example of that was trans athletes in sports. Going into that topic, I really didn't know or feel much about it. I was like, yeah, I can kind of see how both sides would be difficult. But coming out of it, I was like, wow, trans people are really affected by this.
Like, as in, um, they're affected by not being able to play in sports, or
Yeah,
they're affected by like,
by
the backlash
rules.
of.
Definitely both. The headlines, oh, this trans person did well in sports and it's unfair, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, eventually on that one, I just kind of weighed the consequences, and I was like, yeah, but trans people's lives are so important. Like, they need to feel validated and supported. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
sports, like high school sports, sure, they're important, but like, are they that important?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And I get what you're saying and I think that's why it's so hard, because you have the lives of two different people,
mhm,
of two different groups of people being weighed against each other. And it's hard to say that like one is intrinsically more important than the other. And so like what it ends up being is like, what is the fairest? You know what I mean? Like, what affects everybody the best? You know what I mean? Like, what helps everybody the best? And
sure.
I think that's why the argument gets so frustrated, because on one side of the coin you have like these trans athletes who like feel like they don't like belong in any like genre of sport. You know what I mean? And that whole section of life is cut off from them because they can't participate, or they can't participate in the way that they feel like they should. And so you have like that issue. But then on the other side of the coin, you have like, I mean, specifically, you have women who have been training their whole lives to do a sport just to get beat out genetically. And you have like these two
Sure.
sides of a coin, of the same coin, and it's like, how do we make this to where it works for everybody?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's kind of one of the issues, and it's been my MO for, this whole show, is like, when you talk about these issues, you gotta talk about it, and you gotta like humanize people, and you gotta make it understand, but you gotta start from like this like objective point and then move to where you want to go. Because I think a lot of people start from this like super far-sighted opinion on it, and then start going to the
Sure.
middle. And it's like, why would you start there? Because
Yeah.
someone else told you to. Like,
It's a
don't.
very similar approach to pseudoscience, is where you start with a conclusion, then
Yeah.
you
And then
go
go.
up to prove it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
And
little bit backwards.
yeah. So it's like, well, my favorite YouTuber has this opinion, so I'm just gonna start from where he starts, and then you prove me wrong. And it's like, okay, well, what do you
Yeah.
What kind of logic are you working with there?
Sometimes it's hard to know where the middle is, though.
Mm.
A good point I heard a few months ago is there's a wide difference sometimes between what is neutral and what is objective.
Sorry, I thought I set a timer.
Oh no.
I didn't. That's fine. You said there's a difference between what is neutral and what is what?
Yeah, there's a big difference sometimes between what is neutral and what is objective.
Oh, like yeah,
Like
yeah.
some political issues, just because you're in the middle of like the US dichotomy of politics or whatever, or spectrum's the right word there. It
Doesn't mean that it's
that
the
doesn't mean
neutral
it's
opinion.
neutral or true in objective sense.
Yeah, yeah, and
Something on the far right could be true, something on the far left could be true, something more close to the middle and askew. So yeah, it's difficult sometimes to gather all these sources because I try to do both. I try to be neutral and objective, but I feel like there are cases where one side is more objective than the other, and I have to get other input on that.
that was gonna be one of my questions is how does like managing sources and like managing bias when you're doing this
It's
kind of
tough,
research,
yeah.
like
I have told the members of my club if they ever have an issue with my sources or think they lean too far one way, that they can send stuff to me and suggest their own sources, and I'll evaluate them.
yeah,
Because I feel like I don't know. I don't know if my media literacy is that good. Like I'm in Gen Z, so it's better than like
than
some
somebody
people who
40 years
haven't
older than
grown up with
you.
the internet, and they're still getting used to the internet and all that, which is fine. But yeah, I'm definitely not like super well versed in reading political articles, so
Well,
any input and help is always appreciated with that.
yeah, I think oh man, it's I hate having a conversation that ends with just it sucks. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. You know what I mean? Because I'm like such a like let's find something
Mm,
that we can start working towards person. But I think with just like when it comes to sources and information, it really is just like you'll have the same topics like climate change. You'll have the exact same topic. And the right is saying, well, my science defends that it's not happening. And then you have the left saying, well, my science defends that it is happening. And like one of them is right, but
sure.
like if they're both saying that science supports their claims, where do you even start? Like when it comes to researching that kind of thing.
I think then it just boils down to scientific literacy, or yeah, you start looking at meta analyses. Those are really helpful. You can get a bigger picture of what's going on in the research scene. Um, I think with our club, it's okay to be more neutral, even if it's less objective, because it's more just about broadening perspectives rather than figuring out the exact right answer always and
Or like
being
changing
right.
people's minds. It's
Yeah,
an open platform, which is why I think it's so nice because, when you have a conversation with somebody, especially something that's like important to them, what
hmm
you got to realize is like you got to think, what does the end of this conversation look like? So if we're talking about something as like intrinsically important to people as like abortion, you have like someone talking to somebody and it's like if you were pro-choice and I was pro-life or something, it'd be like I'm convincing you that you're a murderer and you're convincing me that I don't care about women's rights. You know what I mean? And it's like that's the end goal.
that
You know what
gets
I mean?
really
I
frustrating.
know, and it's like
Yeah,
if I win, do I really win? Because now you're
no,
crying because you think you're a murderer. So it's like with this like open discussion template of talking, it's like this is so nice because you kind of eliminate that end goal and you can start kind of chipping away the barriers so that like the end blow isn't so harsh. So that like if you did like convince somebody that you were right, you weren't stripping them of like all of their morals.
yeah, and you allow people to digest things at their own pace and reach conclusions. Um, yeah, I think in a lot of casual debates, I'd say most casual debates, and even some academic debates, both sides are the loser.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like, no offense to debaters, but you really gotta keep your perspective in mind. Like, what is my goal here?
Like,
Like, you can be right, but at what cost?
I know. And how is this making me feel? That's always been like something that I think of as like, and I'm gonna ask this to you, the same that I'm trying to ask for like all of my guests is like, how does your club or your view on life serve you? Like, how does it help you to believe in open discussion? You know what I mean? Like, how
Sure.
does it serve you? And I'm trying to ask that to people because you'll see these people who are talking about and they're getting like red in the face and they're just super angry and it's like this yelling match. And it's like, how could your ideas possibly be serving you if it is getting you this angry?
Hmm.
Or like how are these ideas affecting you on the inside if like you are reacting like this? You know what I mean? And I know that's not true for like all political debates and some people just kind of like the competition or like,
Yeah, and I
like
think
getting in heated
sometimes
stuff too.
sometimes
But
it's okay to be emotional,
yeah,
especially if
yeah.
you're personally affected.
Yeah, and it's not to say that like the emotional side of it is bad, but you have to like question like what is this doing to me? You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
if it's truly the ideology that is making me feel this way, I should question that or I should like go through that. Um Not necessarily that it's making me feel this way or bad, but I should be thinking about how my thoughts affect me. And I think that's an important thing. So like how does open discussion affect you? Like how has it impacted the way you view life and the way you handle things?
Mm. Um, well, it makes me happy. I know that. Just it's really refreshing to get around in a group of people and just disagree like civilly. Um, yeah, in most social settings, it's not really acceptable to disagree as much. Say you just meet a stranger on the bus, like, and they say some wild opinion. Like, are you gonna really disagree with them, or are you just gonna like kind of
Just be like, "Oh, okay."
okay, and then just wait till they get off the bus or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Students for Open Discussion is more of a safe place where everyone can just explore their ideas in that setting. If anyone's ever uncomfortable, they can leave. But generally, we just explore together. So yeah, one thing is just reminding myself that people out there exist who disagree with me, and they're nice people, and they're trying to do good, and yeah, it's just great to know people with different perspectives.
Yeah, I think that's a super important like when it comes to people like disagreements and kind of more controversial issues, it's like if people kind of assume this like maliciousness to the disagreement. Like you disagree with me because you're evil. Like you disagree with me because
Yeah,
you
I
have
think
bad intentions with it.
I think most people are not evil,
Yeah, yeah.
but we often, if you get in your echo chamber, you start thinking like, man, how could anyone believe this?
Mhm.
And then when you go to my club, you're like, oh, they can tell me why.
Yeah,
It's like,
and uh,
oh, okay, I might still disagree, but
at least
I
I
know
know that this
why.
person like is just another person talking to me.
Yeah,
And
I've never heard someone in my club say, and like something to defend their argument by saying like, I want to do this thing because it's bad, or because it's for my personal gain, or something super selfish or
yeah.
cynical like that.
Well, I think what ends up happening is, you know, there are some opinions that could be profitable. So like if I were to spread this viewpoint, I will make money if I spread this viewpoint. And so now when those people have that viewpoint, they assume that they're also trying to make money, not knowing that no, they were just kind of like they're just someone's benefiting off that viewpoint, and it's not. They're kind of like the messenger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like truly them who believes that. Even if they're like down to the core of the idea, there was this like evilness. Like it's not coming from them being evil. If that were even
Sure.
true, like if there are opinions that are just evil, like you just got it. People are thinking too deeply about about they're going too hard into the soul of people.
Yeah, they're trying to like psychoanalyze, like, oh man, you must have a terrible relationship with your father if
Yeah.
you think that opinion.
Yeah, it's
And
like
what?
it's like no, they were just told that, and now they say it too. You know what I mean? Most people haven't even like thought too hard about what they think, which is why I feel like the open discussion is such a good idea to just get people to just like, hey, just talk about what you think. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
make it make sense to yourself, make it make sense to us. Like, go ahead and just talk about it. And
Yeah, it's helped me express my ideas better too, I think.
yeah, so you mentioned the transgender athletes. Um, what are some other like opinions of yours that have changed, or like some things that you have learned? Like, what else have you reaped from this group?
Well, that was definitely the biggest change. Um, the abortion topic we did about a year ago, I think. That was interesting to hear people's perspectives. Um,
Did that go fairly well, like emotionally? Like, were people
yeah,
pretty chilled or anything?
people were pretty civil. From what I've heard the spiciest like debate we've ever had is like college athletes pay.
Really? I know that does like really affect some people, but
Yeah.
I don't.
But yeah, we'll talk about guns and abortion and all these other hot button issues without people getting too angry or anything.
Do you think there's a reason why athletics is like becoming such a hard topic for people? Like,
I personally wasn't in the club at the time of that debate actually. Or not debate, but
I'm trying to think because like with a lot of these debates, you're struggling with people who have taken their opinions on it, and regardless of whether or not it's true, but personalizing it to who they are as a human. And so it's like if you're going to deconstruct the gay marriage argument to somebody who is homosexual, you will inevitably be deconstructing a huge part of who they are.
that's
Same with like
true, yeah.
LGBTQ, same with like Black Lives Matter, same with abortion. They've applied what, regardless of whether or not they should have, they've applied the political idea to themselves as a person. And so to strip away or to, deconstruct the argument, you're going to take it away. And so I think maybe with athletics, it's the same thing. Like they've built their whole life training and trying to be this person, and then they don't get paid for it, or then somebody beats them, or they can't be a part of this group because of their gender. You know what I mean? And you have like this thing towards like, okay, now my life is completely turned upside down because of your opinion. You know what I mean? And so I think that's normally why they get heated, but I don't hear about it getting super heated with athletics as much. It's definitely an interesting.
Yeah, I really don't know the context of that one.
Yeah. I'd be curious.
Maybe someone was just having a bad day. I really have no idea, but
Yeah, I think for me when it comes to
oh, another thing I should mention, another way we keep things civil is we have an object, whiteboard eraser, whatever we can find in the room, and we just pass that around, and so only one person can talk at a
yes,
time.
yeah,
Without that limitation,
talking pillow.
yeah, everything goes out the window without that.
Yeah.
That is so key.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one, and it gives people to
Even
time
with
to kind
like
of cool
4
down.
people, you'd be shocked how chaotic it gets without that.
That's a very good idea. The reason why it exists is because it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even like in a two people conversation, like you have that conversation where it's like if two people are talking at once, like it's difficult
Hmm.
almost near impossible to like really fully grasp what the other person is even talking about. You know what I mean? So that is a super good rule. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice having a conversation, and not walking on eggshells like with topics, because like I said, some of these can just be so personalized with people that it's impossible to even talk about it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that
Yeah.
comes from all sides.
Yeah, we come in with the expectation that we're gonna disagree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we didn't disagree, then I think we chose a bad topic.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if we just sit in a circle and agree all day,
So
that's not very interesting.
what was the topic about Andrew Tate? Like how did that go? Run me through that. Let's talk about Andrew Tate.
Sure. Yeah. Another person talk about Andrew Tate on a podcast.
But yeah, two white dudes talk about Andrew Tate.
Yep.
Yeah, very unheard of for sure.
Ah,
Yeah, so
dude
how
is
did
a
that
menace.
what were the sources on that? Just
I
look
found
them
some
up.
articles. We were reacting to his recent arrest about a month prior. And yeah, just his effects on the overall culture, specifically young men.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah, I think it's mostly middle school, high school age, I'm guessing. Maybe some young college
Probably, yeah.
is who's targeting mostly. How his ideas affect people and how they view women, particularly. Um, yeah, if we talked about, how much time he should get or what his sentence should be,
So
what his treatment should be.
run me through like what were the two sides to this? Like where was the disagreement? Like,
So the
and then
disagreement,
where did like you stand, and then how did you kind of go through this conversation?
sure. So we gave initial thoughts as we do every time. We just go in a circle and say what we initially think, and most people are like, no, I think everyone was like, yeah, this guy's bad
Yeah.
because, yeah, he's done some terrible things. We won't get into that, but yeah, we all agree he's bad. Some people were the big issue for some people was the censorship. In their opinion, they thought he was being censored in some ways. Andrew Tate talks about the Matrix a lot and how it's
Red pilled and
yeah, it's like this force that's coming to attack him. The elites are trying to silence him, and they don't want you to hear this type of deal. So yeah, we ended up talking about censorship and what the role of the government should be to some extent. Like, should they allow the free speech of him, or is it Twitter's job to do that? Because I think he's had like 3 accounts banned or something. And now he's back, I think, with Elon Musk. I think he reinstated his account. It's just
So
keeps changing.
what did you end up concluding with like the censorship? Because that was a big topic that I had planned for us about like open discussion and like
Yeah.
where it leads and what it means and
Personally, I think Twitter should be allowed to get whoever they want off their platform since they're a private company. I think people have the right to be mad at that, but I think that's within Twitter's rights to do. As far as this, like, I don't want to say conspiracy, but like this increasing idea that there's this group of powerful people trying to silence, particularly people on the political right. I think it's a bit far-fetched to some extent. I just haven't seen much concrete evidence for it. I'd be interested to like learn more about why people think this way, but
I think what the things I've heard about that, like specifically, is kind of the elusiveness of, especially when it comes to Twitter, of like their algorithm and how that happened.
Sure.
And like,
Like shadow banning people.
yeah, like the shadow banning and just like the algorithmic pseudo silencing of people.
Sure.
Like details that they know existed and were proven to be existed, but were never like shown to the public.
Yeah, I think Twitter has an ethical obligation to their users to kind of show some of that stuff, like how the algorithm works to some extent. Obviously, they probably don't want to show everything, but yeah, being transparent I think is important. Do they have an obligation to from a legal perspective?
No, yeah,
Uh,
no,
I
and
don't think
I,
so.
I think that's where this perspective comes up is that like people are like, hey, this is kind of like weird and kind of shady, and we're not saying that they shouldn't do it. We're saying that like you should know that they are doing it, like
Yeah, sort of like an informed consent
yeah,
deal. Like
like
you should know what you're getting into.
yeah, and like if and they don't have to say that and they can deny it, but like I think the point of people talking about it is to be like, hey, you should know that Twitter's doing this and like do what you want with it. Like you can still follow them, but like you should understand that like this is what's happening and it's affecting people in this kind of way. And like and I think with like this matrix idea, I think
Yeah.
I think it's described in a far fetched way,
Yeah, I
especially by
think the
Andrew Tate.
analogy
Especially by Andrew Tate. I think it's a little extreme.
also the Matrix is a trans allegory, which is like why are all these far right people using a trans allegory as their analogy
You'll have to
they want
explain to
to.
me what trans allegory means.
So I don't know all the details of this, but both of the creators of the Matrix are transgender.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, there's some pretty clear parallels between, taking I think the blue pill and just things go normal and you just kind of follow society versus, taking the pill, being brave, uh, doing what you think you should.
Oh, so are people equating like the matrix, like is that kind of what the point was supposed to be?
That's what I've heard.
Wow,
I've heard
I have not heard that.
that's their intention.
I knew that
The Wachowskis.
yeah, I knew that they were transgender, but I didn't know that people were like or I knew that the creators were transgender, but I didn't know that people were like throwing that into
I think it's a
into the
pretty
equation.
well established explanation as to what they're getting at. I don't know all the details, but
Yeah, I think what bothers me the most about like this, I think it's like a far fetched way of explaining something that is very real and could be very possible. And it's kind of what I said earlier about like some ideas are marketable, and some ideas will make people money, and they have made people money. And it's
yeah,
kind of like this idea of like, well, of course, if you had the say in it, and if you were corrupt, you would try to peddle the ideas that make you money, and
sure.
vice versa, you would try to stop the ideas that don't make you money. And so it's
Yeah,
like definitely
that
within
definitely happens.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely within the realm of possibility. And um there are I wouldn't be able to speak to any cases, you know what I mean, specifically, but I mean it definitely makes sense and it happens on all sides of all issues.
yeah, and I think that's another good thing I'd like to mention. In the U.S. we've got the Republicans and the Democrats, and I think they're both just kind of terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. I think being on the political right doesn't make you a good person. I don't think being on the political left makes you a good person. Um, you can say, "Oh, this side is more conscious about this issue," or whatever. But you can have either political opinion for purely selfish or
Yeah.
even evil reasons
Yeah.
in some cases.
Yeah, and I think that's why I've always described myself as center right, because it's so important that people understand that like I have a lot of left leaning values. Not a lot. I have a few pretty important left leaning values, and I have right leaning values as well. But it all comes from like starting from the middle and then moving that way. And it's never extreme on the right, and it's never extreme on the left. And it's like you got to have that balance of
Sure.
like, you know, thinking about each issue in on its own and not just like, well, this is what my side generally agrees with, so I'm going to just lump it into this big, thing. And it's like if you have these political ideas, like you should really just, think about it and like assess it for what you truly believe and what you truly like feel, because otherwise you might be a part of someone's market scheme that is
Mm,
is making them money because you're peddling the
sure.
matrix, and the only way you can get out of the matrix is if you buy my master class, and, which is just
Uh,
my Discord, just my Discord server.
yeah, there's been some YouTubers who have been called out for taking funds from certain political sources, and some of them I've even watched, and I was like, whoa.
Really? Do you have any
They
examples?
got paid by like Kurz is that? They're like an animation
I
info
think I know.
like infotainment, I guess, but they talk about like political stuff, I think usually. They'll talk about climate change a lot or what we should do with climate change. But they've received a bunch of money from Bill Gates, I believe it was. And I guess a lot of people felt kind of shocked or surprised that that wasn't better disclosed.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it's the stuff like that that people are talking about when they really say like, "Hey, censorship is kind of bugging me," or like, "Hey, we live in this society where we live in a society." I hate that sentence because of Joker, dude. Or because
uh,
that whole meme. But like they're saying, "Hey, we live in this world where, you know, people can make money off of your ideas, and like people are getting silenced, and we don't know exactly why, but it's also conveniently you can make money this way by silencing." You know what I mean? I think that's what people are talking about.
yeah, I think more transparency and funding is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know politically, I think the Citizens United case, they just said like, oh yeah, you can donate whatever you want, like even companies,
Yeah.
and you don't have to really report it. It's like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you can, but why
To
why
me,
would
that
you?
seems like an evil decision.
Well, yeah, and I think people are, again, like they're taking this like kind of political concept of, you know, giving money to these things, and they're making it seem like it's this they're making it seem like it's an issue of, oh, they just don't like them. It's like, no, we just want to know. You know what I mean? We might agree with it. Like we
Hmm.
just want to know, but people are kind of like digging into it and being like, this person is peddling this idea that everyone's giving everyone money and it's all this scam. It's like, no, you're looking too deep into it. It's just,
Yeah.
he's saying, I just want transparency with people and what they are doing with their money, so that
Hmm.
I know who I'm actually supporting and what I'm actually listening to.
Right. There's a practice by companies. I watched a Climate Town video about this, specifically with the coal lobby, called astroturfing.
Okay, I don't think I've heard of it.
Um, so astroturfing is it's an it's like a reference to grassroots organizations. So basically, these big coal companies, they were creating these grassroots organizations, but they were actually funded by big coal.
Oh, wait, to kind of like,
So they're like fake grassroots, like, oh yeah, we're just normal people trying to stand up for what's right. And actually, they're
it was
supported by
actually
this
just like,
big lobbying
yeah,
groups. And
diversifying a humongous company. It's
yeah, so anytime a company or industry does stuff like that, it's super irritating. And
yeah, I know. Gosh, people have been changing my perspective about stuff like that, especially with YouTubers that I watch. Especially when it comes to like YouTube drama. Like the funniest thing, like I was watching with the Daily Wire, they had sent out a contract to Steven Crowder, if you
Oh
know who
yeah,
those people are.
I've
Uh,
heard about this.
yeah, and so they sent out this contract, and I watched this hour-long video of the people at the Daily Wire reading that contract out, and just like completely transparent. And I believe that that was the contract, and they're just reading out the entire contract word for word, and be like, "This is what we offered him. This is how the conversation went. This is what he said no." And then I watched like the 20-minute video of like Crowder talking about it and being like, "Well, I said this and I did that,"
Mm.
and then the first comment was like, "Congratulations, guys! You faked beef to get everyone to watch your guys watch you guys' videos." And I was like, "No way!" Like, I never considered that this is all just like staged to just get like a couple
That
like
is
million
very
views.
common.
I was like, no shot that I just like,
Just like controversy
yeah,
farming.
yeah. I was like, no shot that I just watched like
So awful.
an hour 20's worth of content just for somebody to be like, yeah, this could have all very easily just been fake, and like none of this is true, just to peddle your guys' like views.
Yeah,
And
it just makes you feel used almost.
I know, and I think people aren't. I think both sides agree on this concept, but
Mhm.
but because it's associated with their favorite creator or their favorite news station or their favorite company, like if you're like liberal and I told you that your liberal company does this, you're gonna say like that's an attack on my liberal company. No, it's an attack on all companies, like
Mm.
all people. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this isn't like just because like your liberal company does it doesn't mean that it's the liberal agenda that does this. No, it's it's everything. You know what I mean? And I think it's a pretty bipartisan idea, but it just isn't expressed that way. And I think it goes back to like people
I agree.
just like
I
the way they
think
talk about
people aren't willing to work with each other enough. I think the two-party system is really bad at doing that.
it. Yeah.
I've heard a bit about coalition systems, like in the Netherlands. Some they do have their shortfalls, but the idea of getting a group of groups together to like accomplish something, get a law passed, that sounds way more enticing than like,
Then
oh, do we have 51 people in the Senate right now?
let's see if we can
Let's
get
flip a coin,
yeah,
see
let's
if
see if we can
this
get this done.
passes.
Yeah,
And it's like it just reinforces the idea that there's only two ways to think about something, or yeah, two perspectives to consider. It's really just not helpful.
I think climate change is the most frustrating
Hmm.
example of this for me because like both sides are so extreme on it compared to each other, and just like no middle ground can even be made because like they'll throw up this bill that'll be like we need to spend trillions of dollars on climate change to solve it, and the right's going to be like no, it's going to be zero or nothing. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, why can't we just like put some money into it and do something? Like, why does it have to be either we're gonna die in 10 years or there's not an issue at all? Like, why are those the only two options? And why can't we just be like, okay, let's meet in the middle here and like do something? You know what I mean? And I think it's the most frustrating thing
Yeah.
with climate change because, like I said, like both sciences are saying, you know, we're right, but it's like, okay, let's just do something. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I think there's a point where you just have to try things. It can be scary because, laws affect people, obviously. But
Yeah,
I was talking to someone about healthcare recently. And I was like, the U.S. pays the most per person for healthcare out of like any of the developed countries. Why don't we just change something?
like let's
Like, just
just
anything,
let's
please.
just see what happens. You know what I mean?
Like, obviously, it's going to affect people. So we should think hard about it. Like, I'm not saying we should just, like, run an
Willy-nilly throw
experiment on our.
guinea pig.
Yeah.
Entire country on something as important as healthcare. Yeah,
Yeah, but we should be, like, putting stuff into place. Also, we have federalism, which is, like, the way things are supposed to work is the states, like, try stuff out, and then the federal government, like, takes the good ideas. more of that needs to happen, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oh man, I will admit, healthcare is my least knowledgeable political
Hmm.
conversation. I think I could think about it maybe conceptually, and I'd probably agree on something similar as climate change. Like, let's just meet in the middle on this, guys. Like, it's not, it doesn't have to be as extreme. But with this idea of like federalism and like the state level, because we just had like Roe v. Wade get passed, and that was kind of like the idea of, okay, let's the ball's in the court of the states now, and let's let them figure it out and test out to see what we like. And I do think people misunderstood what that was supposed to be, or at least the loud ones misunderstood what that was
Yeah,
supposed to be.
it definitely affects a lot of people. So I think people were rightfully angry. It, as far as constitutionality, I don't know all the nitty gritty. Like, I think the Roe v. Wade argument had like four of the Bill of Rights wrapped into one, and then it was the right to privacy, and that's what kind of like solidified it in the past. But yeah, I don't know the constitutional details, but obviously the effects have been widespread. People are being negatively affected by it. So
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the misinterpretation of it, I think it's more on the end of, at least at the beginning, a lot of people thought that it was like banning abortion nationwide, not to like downplay the effects it had on people,
sure,
but like people were just like they thought that it was a federal thing when in fact it was a state level thing.
yeah,
And
that's
so I think that was like the
correct.
miscommunication that I was talking about, like, or the misinformation that I was kind of talking about, where people just didn't really understand
Yeah,
like
that's
what was going
true.
on.
The Supreme Court didn't outright ban abortion
Mm-hmm.
in the U.S. That's
Yeah.
just not what they did.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I think that might also have just been like the loud people were saying that abortion was banned in the U.S. and it wasn't actually like the popular consensus. Maybe some statistics would disagree with me on that, but I'm not a
Yeah,
statistician or anything, so I won't.
it's hard for me to remember what thoughts I saw. I get most of my general public thoughts from Twitter, which skews left. So like,
It's hard to like.
it's hard to know. Like,
I don't.
I like Twitter because you can kind of get a gauge of what people are feeling, but
Yeah,
you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think. Twitter's hard because I think now it really is curated to like what you want to see, and someone made a good
Mm,
point. I think I was listening to like Joe Rogan or something, and he made a good point about like Twitter and the algorithm, and it's like what's going to get you to engage with the software is going to be what gets you upset. Like that's just like the easiest way to get people to spend more time, to comment more, to like more, you know what I mean, to read more, is
sure.
to get them upset. And so like you're probably going to see more of what you don't believe on Twitter, because that's what's going to get you engaged, or I guess what you really, really, really do believe. And so it's kind of hard to assess like what is actual Twitter and then what is my Twitter feed. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, the way to get exposure on Twitter is not to get a lot of likes or retweets. The best way is to get a bunch of replies because that tells Twitter this is controversial
yeah.
or this is engaging, and then it will show it to so many people.
What this guy on TikTok
TikTok is similar.
yeah, this guy he made a video and he it was like a Fortnite Dragon Ball Z video and he
Okay.
purposely pronounced the Kamehameha wrong so that he could get it
Mm.
retweeted in a bunch of duets and a bunch
Outrage
of
bait.
replies, and it was outrage bait and he blew up because of it.
They do that with food too. Like, there's a video of these people making spaghetti on their kitchen counter,
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the most atrocious,
I've seen
angering
those.
thing.
I don't understand why.
Or like NyQuil chicken.
No, I didn't know.
The whole goal is to get you mad.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it works.
And it works. Dude.
But it's infuriating because it works.
I'm upset that you even mentioned NyQuil chicken, and they would be
NyQuil
rolling.
chicken should be illegal.
They'd be rolling knowing that was just mentioned on a podcast right now. Like it
That's
got you so
true.
good that you're even shouting it out on the rooftops. Ugh.
Just such a vile creation.
No, I think the worst one I saw was someone got like a 2-inch pan, like a ceramic pan, filled it with water, and then maybe like put 15 noodles in there, like big, like round noodles in there,
Okay.
microwaved it, took it out without draining any of the water, put mayonnaise in it and ketchup, and then put it back in there, then put some American cheese on it and ate it. And I was just like,
Oh.
that is putrid.
Always the mayonnaise.
It makes me want to gag just like talking about
sketchy cooking and mayonnaise just go hand in
it.
hand.
I don't know what mayonnaise has to be like. It brings anything up from like okay to just vile. Even though I like mayonnaise, it's my girlfriend dropped this bombshell on me. Her whole family eats banana mayonnaise sandwiches.
Her whole
Her
family?
whole family. I walked in there.
Okay, that is definitely nurture.
Yeah.
No human being is meant to do that.
Dude, that's what I would tell. So she has a big family of like 6 kids and then 2 adults. And I'm telling you, they just like trained them to eat like poor people. Like even though they're like wealthy, because I grew up with not a lot of money, and the stuff that they're eating and that they love was stuff that like I grew up with as like a struggle meal. You know what I mean? And so they're like, "Hey everyone, it's time for dinner," and they're just like 18-year-olds are cooking hot dogs in the microwave and just eating it with no bun. You know, or like they're just like a drink family, or like
I mean,
Fruit Loops and cheese.
my cooking, Fruit Loops and cheese.
I'm being serious. Like this stuff is such like a Mod Podge like idea that they just came up with.
They have to be doing this for attention.
I
What
don't
is
know.
this?
I don't know what it is, man. I'm telling you. I'm in the living room and her mom comes in and she's like, "All right, who wants a banana mayonnaise sandwich?" And then she just like, everyone's like, me. And I'm like, no shot. I tasted it because they insisted that I did.
Yeah.
No shock.
No.
It tastes exactly as you'd imagine that it
tastes like bananas and mayonnaise.
It's no surprise. There's no like combination that like, you know, really, really enthralls you. It tastes exactly
Sure.
as you'd expect it to. Oh, absolutely putrid. But yeah, I mean, just the bait on TikTok, getting people
Oh yeah.
just to be frustrated. I've tried, you know,
I personally have not gotten TikTok yet.
you staying
It
clean.
scares me.
Well, you know, I graduated from iFunny to TikTok.
Oh.
So I'll definitely say it's a step up. I
Yeah.
left the boat on that one. Yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. It's like this is I I haven't smiled in months. Like while being on iFunny, so I was like I figured it was
I feel the same way about Facebook. I look at Facebook and I'm like, why am I looking at Facebook? I get no joy from doing this.
I dodged the bullet. My whole family's on Facebook, but I mean I have respectable family on Facebook for sure, but like I also have a lot of like not good family on Facebook that like I'm glad I don't,
Mm.
you know, get to see on Facebook very often.
Yeah.
Facebook, I dodged the bullet on that one, so I've never had Facebook. Same with Snapchat. I've never had Snapchat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Snapchat's fun. I enjoy that one. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Do you just use it for communication, or do you browse any
Oh.
of the features on the
Oh,
Snapchat
no.
stories or there?
Those are horrific. The change where they made it so you look at your friends' stories and then immediately it shows you the featured content. That was one of the worst days of my life. Like, all that content, you just can't, it's like a car crash. You can't look away.
It's so like horrible.
It's terrible. There's ads every 30 seconds.
I've seen like screenshots of like,
It's so bad.
hey, what is this like featured content section on Snapchat.
I despise it. I've mostly stopped looking at it, but
There's
it's
sometimes where
hard.
something
It's hard to not look at it because it shows you it right after you're done looking at
Yeah.
your stuff.
something so just like heinous just catches your eyes, and you're like, no, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about with just like this. It's so easy to make money off of like people's just reptile brain.
Yeah, I bet Snapchat made a fortune off that decision.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
that like featured content.
so
Oh.
much in ad revenue.
And it's so easy to get an ad, especially on Instagram. Like I had an ad on Instagram, like a sponsored ad for like $5, and someone just commented like, "Why is this sponsored?" like I have a YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
then for like some of my like comedy stuff, and I posted a black screen that just said, "I'm uninstalling Instagram. Watch my new video to find out why." It was satire. It was just like making fun of the people who do that.
Oh.
And then I sponsored that as a post, and then everyone was like, "Why is this sponsored right now? Like, why are you paying to have this up right now?"
Hmm.
And it's so easy, so anybody can do it. And
Yeah.
anybody can just have that kind of content on
True.
Snapchat. I don't know what it is, man. But no, it all boils down to this, like, you know, it's so easy for us to just be controlled by like some higher thing, and I think that's what people are talking about when they're like, it's the system. It's
Mhm.
trying to get us down. It's like this is the kind of stuff that we're talking like.
There are systems in play.
Yeah.
Kind of do the
Gotta
little
move.
puppet thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like a genius made it to where you can't get off TikTok. Like somebody very smart made it to where made TikTok the app that it is.
Yeah.
Like someone's making a lot of money off of off of just that idea, and so I think that's kind of like the main message. Oh, I did set an alarm. Yeah,
Oh.
so we can go for probably like 5 more minutes, and then
All right.
yeah, but so I guess what are some of your future ideas for topics with the open discussion, like,
We've got quite a few.
and can people suggest things?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
After
so-
each meeting, I gather suggestions and put them all on a list. We had like the balloon situation, like the balloon from China that flew over the U.S. and then eventually we shot it down.
I actually didn't hear about this.
Really?
Yeah.
There's been multiple balloons and UFOs, and like people are wondering, like, is the Chinese government spying on us?
Well, they are. It's TikTok, but did you know that ISU can't use TikTok to promote their stuff anymore? Like
Really?
ISU affiliated things.
No, I didn't.
Because I'm an RA up in Roberts, and they say like, hey, if you're going to do events, you can't use TikTok to advertise it because of the threat of like the government and
I know federal employees can't have TikTok on their devices, like their government devices anymore. I'm not sure about state.
yeah. I don't know if it's. I think it's just like I don't know if it's an like state policy or like just ISU does it or like maybe other colleges do it.
Yeah.
But like people are genuinely getting like wary about that, and I've never been like a big person on privacy. Like
Mhm.
I understand why people are concerned about it, but for me, like I don't care about privacy personally.
Sure.
But I
Yeah.
understand people's concerns about it, but I just don't share them. It's just kind of one of those things. But
Yeah, I'm similar. I don't get a VPN or
yeah,
you know.
it's like what are
Maybe
they-
I should, but
yeah. It's like what is like the Chinese government gonna learn about me that like
yeah,
I
I'm not
really
that
need to hide?
interesting.
Yeah, so I got nothing to hide, so like there's really no
Sure.
reason why I should like I should be worrying about this stuff. But yeah, I understand it. But
Yeah.
okay, so the balloon. What other?
We got healthcare tomorrow, actually, 6 to 7.
Hey, yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have? Hmm. I am really drawing a blank right now.
No, I don't want to put you on the spot. You know what I
Camera
mean? But,
pressure, you know.
you guys will just have to go to the club to find out, and then you guys can tune in and then tune in
Yeah.
on our next episode, and you can find out, I guess.
There's one about conservative versus, or like traditional values versus modern values, because that was a big topic in the Andrew Tate discussion as well,
Mm-hmm.
because he definitely promotes a pretty traditional viewpoint. So we talked about advantages and disadvantages of tradition and when it's good and bad. So we could explore that further. For light topics, we had like, what animal could you be if you could be an animal?
That's
Um,
fun. That's fun. I love the
yeah.
which animals could you beat in a fight, and how many,
Ooh,
most
yeah.
importantly.
Or like, how many toddlers could you
Yeah. Could you
theoretically?
fight?
That one's just like so hard to answer though,
Yeah,
because you
know,
don't want to look like a
like a
child
monster.
destroyer. Yeah.
I know. My favorite is how many geese could you fight at once? Like before.
Geese are a menace.
Yeah, it's like how many could you take on before you're out, before you're done. Cats
Mhm.
is also a funny one. So it's like, yeah, sure they hurt, but like how many cats does it take to really just end you? You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
Yeah.
Or like 100. Who would win in a fight? 100 duck-sized horses
or
or
100 horse-sized ducks.
horse-sized ducks?
Yeah. I love the
Just one horse-sized duck.
yeah. That's super funny. I
mean,
think
just age-old questions.
I think we'll let the comment section answer some of those, but I encourage you to do any last plugging, like, you know, when you guys meet. You kind of alluded to it, but you know, when you guys meet,
Sure.
yeah, just talk about, you know, what you want, and plug your album too.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode.
I do make music.
Yeah.
Music tech minor. It's a good time. So yeah, Students for Open Discussion, also known as SOD. Best acronym ever.
Yeah.
6 to 7 every Thursday in the Multicultural Center in the MU. It's on the second floor. It's actually not that hard to find. Don't worry. I'll send you a map if you need a map.
Yep.
Yeah, just email me at jrnock@iastate.edu, and I will get in touch with you if anyone's interested. Otherwise, we'll be around. We'll be hosting a mini event maybe in a month or so. That's exciting. Gonna try to get some more people. But yeah, I'm really happy with where the club is right now. It's really just a nice environment.
Yeah, so I encourage everyone to check it out and check out
Yep.
your album.
I do have an album, Eclectic Sauce, released about 2.5 years ago.
Straight banger, I can attest.
Probably in the fall, Electric Sauce will be coming out.
I am.
So,
You must believe I'm gonna have notifications turned on for that one.
oh, good.
Yeah. All right. So that'll be all.
It's been a great
Yeah,
time.
it's great having you on, Justin.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.